So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our mutual aspect series of the week. And I'm actually this time going in reverse. We're starting our moon mutual aspect series, but instead of from the front, I'm like, hey, let's just go backwards. And Saturn is retrograde, let's go, in reverse. So we're going to start from Moon Saturn. And what happens when Moon Saturn are directly opposite of each other and looking at each other, which is called a mutual aspect. When planets are 180 degrees from each other. And if you do not know what mutual aspects you have, if you have, Moon and Saturn mutual aspect, for that, check out the links here and check out my full astrological report. We're exactly in the bottom of the second page. You'll see where planets are placed, which sign they're placed in, so you can see if they're in direct opposite sign. So that means that's a mutual aspect. And also you'll see my books, Astrology, Conjunction, and Aspects at the Speed of Light, where I actually discuss mutual aspects as well in there. So, mutual aspects. Mutual aspect is simply one planet looking at the other planet across. Like me being here on my balcony and looking at the shaft across, the building across. And influencing whoever I'm looking. Because if I had certain powers to influence you, I would look at you and influence you in a certain way. But mutual aspect, remember, this is going to be quarter of the story. Because mutual aspect, the way I am doing it, we do not know what sign, Moon and Saturn are in, what houses they're in, what houses they're controlling. Because energy of those two houses will be transmitted between each other. So if, let's say, Moon rules the 7th house and Saturn, Moon are looking at each other, then in Saturn period, which is known as Mahadashas in Vedic Astrology, you can get married because the 7th Lord Moon was looking at Saturn. So this is why we do not know that yet. We will later on. So anyway, first of all, what is Moon? Moon is emotions. Moon is your heart. Moon is how you feel, your mind. Moon is your mother, your motherly figure. Then Saturn. Saturn is what? Limitation, fear, and anxiety, discipline, organization, and structure. Saturn represents our work ethics. Saturn represents what needs to be done. Jupiter, other planets, represents other energies. Saturn simply says, what needs to be done needs to be done. Here it is. I'm going to give it to you. That's why nobody likes Saturn, because they're forced to do things that they don't want to do. But the thing is, they're supposed to do. Here, I'm going to give you something that you need to do. That's what Saturn is. So when Saturn is looking at Moon directly, Moon is not going to influence Saturn as much in this mutual aspect. Because remember, Moon is a receptive energy. We see Moon because of Sun. Because of sunlight hitting the Moon. So Moon is the one that observes energy. It doesn't really give out as much energy as possible, as it should be. So really, this is more of a one-way mutual aspect. With Moon, it's always this one-way type of mutual aspect. So when the Moon is looking and sucking all the light of Saturn, shows, first of all, anything directly opposite to any planet represents the other things. The 7th place from itself, which represents the relationship aspect. The other aspect, right? So directly opposite is 7 places. So from your mind, you're looking at the 7th place, which is your relationships. What happens? These people are very restricted in their relationships early on in life. They're very fearful of getting into relationships, engaging into relationships with people. They're fearful because they will get hurt. They're fearful they will not get the emotions that they want. Because what happens is this. Saturn is looking at Moon. It's not looking at you. It's looking at your mind, the makeup of your mind and your emotions. How did the makeup of your mind and emotions came into play? It came into play through your mother. Saturn is looking at your mother. Think of it that way. So what Saturn does, gives your mother a lot of reality in life. He made your mother face a lot of reality, through which Your mother may not have been able to give you the emotional nourishment you needed to develop yourself, to develop your emotional senses. This is why these people are hard to relate to sometimes, because for them, emotions are like just work. They're like, what are you crying about? Come on, just do it. It doesn't represent a bad relationship with the mother. It just shows mother herself had to work so hard that while working, being this workaholic mother, she forgot to look at the children as much. Or what happens is the mother tries to put structure upon the mind of the children, puts the discipline structure upon them, that you must do this, this, and this, you must follow these things. And this is why the mother is becoming more of a disciplinarian in life. Also, they feel like in order for them to get into a relationship, they need somebody more mature than them, more structured than them, more disciplined than them, and more of this principled person, old, wise, mature person. So mind, as much as it wants to get away from the energy of Saturn, they're attracted to the energy of Saturn because that's what they find as their anchor point. They're like, you know what? I need a very mature spouse. I need a spouse who's just very practical and real and, very disciplined and organized, because that's what I grew up with. Also, mind. Mind is full of infinite ideas. When Saturn looks at your moon, Saturn is what? Limit. It limits the way your mind can think. What happens is, if let's say I am doing astrology, I am trying to bring astrology to you guys in the most simplistic way. Somebody with this kind of a moon will question and be in a very conservative mode as to what is astrology. Come on, stop fooling people. Come on, this is nonsense. It's not scientifically proven. So what happens is Saturn is this rock solid conservative energy that looks at the mind and always forces the mind to be in a very orthodox mindset than unorthodox, because being an astrologer is more of an unorthodox thing. I mean, come on, who does astrology, right? So this is where the person finds their limit in their thinking, and to see the openness in the liberal ideas. They're more of that conservative nature. They're more of that organized, disciplined nature and that orthodox nature, that things are supposed to be the way they're supposed to be. But what happens is, Saturn is this tight rubber band knot that loosens itself up at a certain point. Between 35, 42, this Saturn just releases itself and makes you feel independent. He's like, okay, that's it. I release you from the spell. And so that's when, after a while, when the person is, able to understand life more maturely, may not be so conservative, may not be so restricted in their thinking. But you know what? If it's an exact aspect, because remember, if Moon is at 2 degrees of Taurus, Saturn is at 20 degrees of Scorpio, this is kind of like a loose mutual aspect. Saturn is not really looking at Moon directly. Moon is right there and Saturn is right here. Saturn is just looking straight, and he just has Moon in his peripheral vision, in his blurred vision. So that all the things that I'm talking about may not be so strong. But when Moon is at 15 and Saturn is at 15 or 14, boom, he has you on the line of sight. That is a very tight mutual aspect. That's when you will really see this aspect. And what happens with these people, since 7th house represents other people, the open space, the outer space, these people somehow have fear, or stage fear, as we call it. They have a fear of speaking in public, speaking their mind in public. You may have an exalted Mercury in the second house, giving you a beautiful speech, giving you all the skills of English, Hindi, whatever. But when it comes to translating that speech to the masses, that's where mind gets stuck. You get this stage fright. You get nervous when you talk in front of people. Because Saturn is what? Saturn is a judge. What is a Saturn's job? To judge you. Saturn is directly opposite. So what does it do? It brings you across people who are going to really judge you for what you think and what you do and what you say. And because you were scrutinized a lot, where you were criticized a lot, which Saturn is, your ability to really go out and speak your mind just kind of restricted. This boundary of Saturn came into play. So that's something people who have this, you have to work on. You have to understand. It's not people that are judging you. They're simply the agent of Saturn. They're trying to just play this game with you because of your past life karma. Just look at it that way. Once you look at it that way, you will never be afraid of however people judge you. People hate me, people curse me on, any of my YouTube, anywhere else. I don't go and sit in my room and I'm like, oh my God, somebody left a really bad comment on my video. Let me not make videos anymore. Somebody thinking I should stop astrology. Okay, let me stop astrology because they just judged me. If I started, or many people started thinking like this, imagine where world would go. So if you have this and you get restricted when somebody judges you, just remember, this is a game that Saturn is playing. He wants you to break that boundary. He wants you to come out and just be judged and say whatever you want. So that's what this mutual aspect does. And what it also shows is that your emotions, your ability to emotionally relate to people only happens on a very practical form. But again, this will be different depending upon what sign it's in. If Moon is in the sign of Cancer and Saturn is in Capricorn, your emotions will show. But your emotions will show to a select few. Your emotions of a mother will be there. But the way the emotions will be expressed is that you are willing to do anything for your kids. Dive into any harsh placement. You can be judged. But you may not show these emotions to other people. Only your kids will know that yes, this is our mother. But if Moon is in a certain other sign, then yeah, it could be completely what I'm saying here. Okay? So guys, this was my analysis of Moon and Saturn mutual aspect. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And again, if you want to know where your Sun and Moon and Saturn are, or other mutual aspect, planetary alignments, all my books, consultations, for that check out the links here. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow with Joni Patri, I think between 11:30 and 12 on my channel and here on YouTube. Otherwise, sayonara.